Okay, now we're back to our little half circle one. So our key points on this for the original, we had the same things. I'm just going to jot those up. Okay, so here's our little points that I sketched in. Now just notice this is not quite on the tip, but just this is a sketch. It's not perfect, but it's really meant to touch that point. If you're ever not sure, just ask. So here's my list of points that might help you see how to do the transformations. For part A, I already told you to factor that so that you can make sure that comes out right. So be careful. That's why I added those parentheses into that other document that you saw. So we are going to perform the horizontal. So that's inside the parentheses. So it's a horizontal. It's going to be a stretch by 2, because remember we do the inverse. It's 1 over b. So 1 over 1/2 would be 2. And then the next thing, so that's going to come first. And then second, we're going to do a horizontal shift. And even though it's subtract, we're going to actually add. So we're going to go right 6 units, okay? So if you haven't done this one yet, go ahead and try it. Now that you see that listed out, I'm going to just pause and start jotting them in. All right, so just to work through, this one's a little more complicated, so we'll work through it together. So we have -1, 0, so I'm going to multiply by 2, so I have -2. And I'm just going to hover there right now. I'm not going to change the y yet, but so it would be -2, 0, but then I'm also shifting right 6. So I can now go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm going to have that and do that in one step for you this time. So the next one, I have -3, -2. Remember, I'm just dealing with the x right now. So if I have -3 and then I multiply that by 2, I have -6. My y on that one was -2 to begin with, so I want to stay there and then move right 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Brings me to the y-axis, and then -5, 0. Again, I would start at my original, so then I'm going to stretch way out to 10. Let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just judge it, keeping my y the same. And then I'm going to shift right 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I end up here at -4. And then that is my final answer for that one. So I wanted you to see in motion like how we can do more than one step at a time. Now for part B, we have a similar situation. We're just dealing with y, so try that one as classwork. It's always a good idea to write out what's happening first, and remember to stretch or compress before you do any shifts of the same caliber. Like if it's vertical, do all your vertical stretch or compress before you do any vertical shifts. Same, for horizontal like we did there. So the same kind of deal. Okay, so I wrote this part out for you. The negative, it's outside of the output. So flip over x-axis, multiply your y's by -1. And simultaneously, we have a vertical stretch by 3. So we can actually multiply our y's by -3. And then we're going to shift up 3. So if we are starting here with 0, so we have -1, 0. Nothing's happening to our x's, which makes it a little easier for us. So we have -1, 0, and then we're going to multiply that 0 by -3, which is still 0, and then we're going to shift up by 3. So that goes there. Then the next point of interest, we have -3, -2. We want to multiply -2 times -3, which gives us a +6. And then we're going to shift, oops, it's not up by 3, it's up by 1. Here. So let's fix that one. So we have, let me just go back through, that would be 0. So we just go up 1. And then we have our one here, 6. And then we shift up 1. And then we have our last point is -5, 0. Multiply that y by -3, which still gives us 0, and we shift up. So you can see that there's quite a stretch up to the sky for that one, and that would be our final answer on that. So the last page, I want you to try all of these for classwork. They're very similar. You do have to be careful with that factoring on a lot of these, even here with the -1. So anything here, you got to factor this out, factor the -1 out. That one's fine. This should say actually -4, so we have a little typo there we want to fix. So this should be -4. We'll fix that. Okay, so the last one is trying to find an equation. Just see how you do with it, or what the transformations would be that went from point A to point B, and I'll just give you my rendition. What I'll do is put the answers just showing on there, and then you can check, and if you're good to go, then just stop the video and you're done. But if not, I'll go through it really quickly what I did. So if you have questions or just need that reinforcement, also just email me if you're stuck on anything or don't understand anything, or if you feel like something's wrong with the video, just let me know. Okay, so here's the answers, all but this last one, because I'll go through that. The way I did this, I wrote out the key points, and then I, just use those to reference. Okay, so we have this part A. We horizontal compressed by 1/2 and shifted to right. So that one you can pretty much do in your head. The key thing is make sure you factor this out here. B was a little more complicated, so I wrote out the points here as I was doing it. Factor first, and then you're going to do the vertical flip over the x-axis, and you can just take all your y's that you started with and make them negative, and you can put that in a table. That helps. And then the horizontal stuff, I'm flipping over y, so I'm going to multiply my x's by... Okay, so I multiplied my x's by -1, and then at the same time I first I did that, and then I subtracted 3 from all the x's. So that way I just wrote the final answer there. So I have -5 became 5, and then I subtracted 3 and I got 2, and I just listed those here and then plotted the points. It's kind of easier to do that way. For C, I kind of did the same thing. I took the same approach, vertical compressed by 1/3. So I took all my y's and just multiplied them by 1/3. But then I also had to shift down 4. So as long as I do my compress first, multiply by 1/3, and then I can subtract 4. So I got some fractions here that were a little cumbersome to deal with, but not too bad. And then the horizontal stretch by 3, that's just kind of like a separate thing, as long as I do all my horizontal stretches before I do any horizontal shifts. That's good. So I multiplied all my x values by 3, and now I'm going to plot the points and show you what that looks like. So I plotted this in here. I'm going to go off the charts, but as long as you can see the points, you can kind of get the idea. So hopefully that helps you figure it out, and you get a similar thing even if it's a little rough. And then for part D, we have y equals negative 2w and then 2x in the middle plus 2. So those are the transformations. When applied to our original function, we would get this picture here. So I hope you found that helpful and you did good with your classwork. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.